the Golden Book of Saint Germain. This is the third and final book of a trilogy. The other books are available in the description. Chapter 1. The Open Portal to Divine Perfection in Action. Both life and its diverse manifestations constitute God in action, wheresoever they may appear. Owing to a deficiency in understanding regarding the application of the feeling-thought principle, humanity impedes the natural flow of the primary essence of life. Otherwise, life would spontaneously manifest its inherent perfection universally. Love, beauty, peace, harmony, and opulence represent the intrinsic inclinations of life, irrespective of the individual who invokes them. Life perpetually emerges with its restorative impetus to demonstrate its perfection repeatedly. I am represents active life. It is indeed remarkable that even the most earnest seekers do not always comprehend the profound significance of these two words. When you pronounce I am with profound internal conviction, you unlock the portal to the uninhibited influx of eternal life. In other words, you fling wide the gates to its natural flow. When you declare I am not, you obstruct the entry of this magnificent energy. I am is God in supreme activity. I have repeatedly brought you face to face with the truth of God in action. My desire is for you to comprehend that I am is the primary expression, whether through thought, feeling, or the spoken word, of every individual entity throughout the universe, whereby it acknowledges its own triumphant divinity. In seeking to comprehend and apply these simple yet potent laws, the student must maintain vigilant custody over both thoughts and words. For whenever one asserts I am not, I cannot, or I do not possess, one, whether consciously or unconsciously, stifles the mighty inner presence as directly as though one were physically strangling another. In the external world, a physical action initiated by thought may be arrested at any moment. However, when a declaration of negation, of not being, not possessing, or lacking capability, is issued, an infinite energy is unleashed, persisting until the individual actively arrests its course or causes that force to be transmuted. This serves to illustrate the immense authority vested within you to qualify, determine, or dictate the manner in which God's omnipotent energy shall operate. I assure you, my beloved student, that physical explosives are far less hazardous. A charge of dynamite will merely cause your physical form to perish, whereas uncontrolled, undisciplined, and ignorant thoughts will bind you to the wheel of rebirth indefinitely. In other words, unless a decree is arrested, transmuted, or dissolved, it persists throughout successive ages, and this by the individual's own summons. Consequently, it is of paramount importance that you comprehend the gravity of your actions whenever you utter careless or discordant expressions, for you are invoking the most potent and divine principle of activity in the cosmos, the I am. I trust the aforementioned concept is not misconstrued. This is neither a superficial nor a hollow concept, nor is it an exaggeration. It is nothing less than the supreme principle of life, as manifested through every civilization that has graced the annals of history. And remember, the primary utterance of every self-conscious form of life is I am, an expression that far transcends the mere assertion I exist. It is only subsequently, after encountering the external world and erroneously qualifying certain activities, that the individual begins to accept conditions inferior to I am. Do you perceive now, my beloved student, that whenever you declare, I am ill, you deliberately subvert the natural perfection inherent in the life process? Do you not see that you are imposing upon it a quality entirely foreign to its nature? Through ignorance and misconception, humanity has for centuries saturated the atmosphere with false and illusory concepts. I need not remind you, therefore, that to pronounce oneself sick is an absolute falsehood in direct opposition to the divine. The divine can be nothing other than healthy, perfect, and vibrant with life. Accordingly, I implore you, dear student, in the name of the Creator, to refrain from attributing such false assertions to the divine. For true liberation remains impossible so long as you persist in their usage. I can never sufficiently emphasize that when you truly acknowledge and accept God's mighty I Am presence within you, no adverse circumstance can ever again find harbor in your experience. Therefore, whenever you find yourself on the precipice of declaring that you are ill, impoverished, or experiencing other adverse conditions, I entreat you in the name of God to instantly transmute that deleterious state to your advantage, making mental decrees with the full intensity of your I Am, since it represents absolute health, opulence, happiness, peace, and perfection. Cease attributing power to external conditions, persons, places, and things. I Am is the power that recognizes perfection universally and in all beings. Contemplation of the expression I Am signifies your awareness that God in action is operating within your life. Permit no false concepts, expressions, or opinions to continue dominating your life or imposing limitations upon your true nature. Maintain a constant remembrance of I Am, and consequently, I am God in action. I am life, opulence, and truth manifest. Thus, by invoking this invincible presence, you preserve an open portal through which the I Am presence may manifest its absolute perfection in your outer world. Entertain no illusion that the continued employment of erroneous decrees can ever culminate in a beneficial manifestation, for such an outcome is an impossibility. In pastoral regions, a heated iron is employed to brand livestock. I desire that I might similarly imprint upon you a consciousness that binds you irrevocably to the I Am awareness, and to the unceasing invocation of that great, glorious presence which you are. Should an imperfect condition manifest within your experience, declare resolutely that it is devoid of truth, and that you accept nothing less than divine perfection in your life. Whenever you consent to falsehood, you will inevitably find it objectified in your life and experiences. This is not a matter of your personal belief or skepticism regarding my words. This is an eternal law, proven through centuries of human experience. We impart it to you this day to secure your liberation. You are aware that individuals in the Western world delude themselves by assuming that the mere disbelief in or denial of sorcery suffices to remain immune to it. Sorcery is nothing other than the perversion of spiritual powers, the selfsame forces that are intended for benevolent purposes. In the contemporary era, the most insidious form of sorcery, mental power misdirected and erroneously qualified, is extensively employed within the political arena. Were this tremendous power utilized in the reverse direction, namely, to affirm that the divine presence operates within every public official, the political sphere would be infused with liberty and justice, and humanity would soon reside in a harmonious world governed by divine action. As it was in ancient Egypt, so it remains today. Those who abuse their mental faculties are bound to discord, incarnation after incarnation. Declare the following: I do not accept conditions from any external environment, nor from any circumstance that surrounds me. I accept only that which proceeds from God, the benevolent source, my I Am. It is imperative that you cultivate the habit of governing your energy. You would do well to sit in quiet contemplation several times a day. Subdue the external self. This practice will permit an additional supply of vital energy to enter your being. Learn to direct and govern it with precision. If you desire your energy to remain tranquil, maintain physical stillness. If you require it to be dynamic, initiate action yourself. You must possess the capacity to confront the various occurrences of your life and transcend them. The student must be prepared to recognize personal habits. One must not wait for another to disclose them. One must engage in self-examination and eradicate everything that falls short of perfection. The method for accomplishing this is to declare that one does not possess whichever habit is deemed undesirable. Therefore, as an integral part of God's creation, I am the perfect child of God. This practice yields a form of liberation that cannot be attained by any other means. Retaining obsolete habits is akin to wearing outworn garments. And remember, do not await the counsel of others. None can accomplish this task on your behalf. You must accomplish it yourself. All that is archaic within an individual emerges to be consumed in this work, this teaching, and this emanation. Prior to lamenting that which you experience within yourself and the surrounding world, recall that it exists precisely for you to confront and transmute. Exercise caution lest you focus upon those matters you desire to eradicate. Furthermore, it is absurd to persist in dwelling upon past endeavors that merely failed to fructify. Is it not sublime that, after centuries of self-imposed limitations, you now possess the opportunity to dissolve them entirely and liberate yourself within a brief span through your own focused attention and exertion? Is such an endeavor not worthy of the experience? The most expeditious means to achieve this is through humor. Humor elevates and lightens circumstances in a manner that facilitates wondrous manifestations. Should you invoke the law of forgiveness, every discordant creation of the past may be consumed by the transmuting violet flame, which shall set you free. You must recognize that the violet flame is the active presence of God in action. Whenever you harbor a desire to engage in a constructive endeavor, proceed without hesitation. Exert your will and execute it, even should the surrounding world crumble into ruins, and remain unconcerned with witnessing the immediate results or the physical manifestation. Even if students possess this knowledge merely at an intellectual level, they must not permit their minds to revert to negative or erroneous matters, as such activity will only obstruct their success. It is remarkable that humanity so often fails to govern this adversary. No student shall achieve success until he ceases to return to the very negative conditions he seeks to surmount. A master's essential work entails endeavoring to lead the student to comprehend the true significance of acceptance. Whatever an individual assents to within his mind, that is what he has accepted. Should he focus upon a single object, he becomes unified with that object. He will identify himself therewith, irrespective of whether it is beneficial or detrimental. When a person's mind assents to a certain condition, the individual is virtually decreeing its existence within his own world. That to which you attentively listen or upon which you meditate, you are accepting and identifying with by virtue of the attention you bestow upon it. Do you believe that a man who perceives a coiled rattlesnake would deliberately approach it merely to be struck? Assuredly not. Yet, that is precisely how students behave when they permit their attention to revert to their grievances. Inner activity governs in accordance with the plan of perfection. If the outer consciousness is permitted to rule, discord will inevitably ensue. When a constructive concept illuminates your mind, it is a reality which, if sustained in your memory, will manifest as an outer reality. It is possible to become so profoundly conscious of God's presence that His emanation may be felt, and even perceived, cascading through oneself at any given moment. The student demonstrates a remarkable capacity to trust the outer world for things he does not truly desire. Likewise, he must compel himself to trust the spiritual realm for those things he does desire. He must remain self-confident and contemplate, how may I utilize the instructions I have received to intensify this activity? Chapter 2. Active God. Jesus declared, I am the resurrection and the life, thereby uttering one of the most profound expressions ever spoken. In proclaiming I am, he did not merely refer to the outer personality, but to the indwelling God and his mighty master presence. For he repeatedly asserted, I of myself can do nothing. It is the Father, the I am, within me who performs the works. By declaring, I am the way, the truth, and the life, he acknowledges the soul power, God in action within him. He states, I am the light which enlightens every man entering this world, thus delivering a pronouncement of vital significance with the words I am. One of the most potent methods to liberate the power of God, love, wisdom, and truth, and to put it into action in the outer experience is to apply the statement I am to each and everything one desires. Let us now contemplate the most powerful expression of all, perhaps one of the greatest ever articulated in words within the outer experience. I am an open door that no man can shut. Do you perceive the vital importance of this? When you fully comprehend these mighty statements, you will realize their grandeur. When there is complete acceptance of the I am within you as the mighty presence of God in action, you will take one of the most significant steps toward true liberation. Let us now analyze the affirmation, I am an open door that no man can shut. If you can achieve this realization, you will possess the key to transcend the flesh. Taking with you the imperfect consciousness you have acquired, you will be enabled to transmute it or raise it to the level of that perfection you have accessed. I can never sufficiently emphasize the importance of meditating upon the I am as frequently as possible, knowing that it is God's mighty, active presence within you, within your home, within your world, and within all your affairs. Every breath you draw is God in action within you. The power to express your thoughts and feelings is God, active within you. Possessing free will, it is incumbent upon you to qualify the energy you project through both thought and feeling, thereby determining how you wish them to serve you. How shall I know how to qualify this energy? Is not the proper inquiry, for everyone is cognizant of the distinction between destructive and constructive thoughts, feelings, and actions. Once the student has received such instruction, he must constantly analyze his motivations to detect any feelings involving intellectual pride, arrogance, or stubbornness within the outer mind and body. Should there be any attempt to object or to prove the instruction erroneous, the individual, rather than receiving blessings and truth, will unconsciously close the door, rendering himself temporarily unable to receive the good offered to him. I wish to remind students that, regardless of their personal opinions concerning the nature of truth, I have verified these condensed instructions, which we are now imparting to you, throughout many centuries. If one desires to receive the greatest possible benefit and to obtain the understanding born of absolute liberation, one must be prepared to listen with an open mind, with the consciousness that the I am, God's active presence within you, is your perfect capacity to receive, accept, and apply without limitation the instruction and radiation bestowed. This will afford students an understanding of these simple, yet mighty, assertions concerning the truth, which shall ultimately bless and liberate them. For centuries humanity has been told, no one can serve two masters. Why? Because there exists but one intelligence, one presence, one power capable of action, and that presence is God within you. When you turn to the external manifestation and believe in the power of appearance, you are serving a false, usurping master who gains a semblance of reality only because God's energy resides therein, an energy which you are misdirecting. Your ability to lift your hand, as well as the life force coursing through the nervous system of your body, is God in action. Dear student, endeavor to utilize this simple method to remember God in action within you. When you are walking down the street, reflect for a moment. This is the divine intelligence and power causing me to walk, and this is the intelligence directing my steps. You will therefore perceive that it is no longer possible for you to proceed without understanding that every movement you make is God in action. Every thought in your mind is divine energy enabling you to think. Since you are already aware that this is a subject which warrants no further debate, why not simply open yourself to accepting this mighty presence of God with all your trust and faith, rather than focusing upon the outer expression, which has been qualified and distorted by a human conception of things? Each form of external expression constitutes a facet of life through which an individual learns, by personal experience, the true origin of his being, subsequently returning to the plenitude of original perfection by virtue of the self-consciousness he has acquired. The outer expression of life is an ever-shifting tapestry wrought by the external mind, which falsely poses as the true actor therein. The children of God perpetually fixate upon this external appearance, replete as it is with imperfections, thereby neglecting their inherent divinity, to which they must return. God is the giver, the receiver, and the gift, as well as the sole possessor of all intelligence, substance, energy, and opulence in the universe. Were his children to learn the art of giving, be it love, material wealth, service, or any other offering, solely for the sheer joy of the act, absolutely nothing would be lacking in their outer expression. Regrettably, driven by selfishness, humanity insists upon personal possession of God's magnificent blessings, a pursuit that has led them to condemnation. There exists but one love, one intelligence, one power, and one substance operating within each individual, and that is God. Every student must be cautioned against the desire to arrogate power solely to himself. If God, and God alone, were fully credited for an individual's actions, the one who did so would witness wondrous transformations. Seldom has the concept of supply and demand been truly comprehended. Assuredly, there exists an abundant and omnipresent supply. However, demand must be established before the universal law permits it to emerge for individuals to manifest and utilize. Endowed with free will, the individual must present his petition or demand with resolute determination, and he shall witness its eventual manifestation, provided he maintains a consciousness devoid of weakness. If employed with earnest resolve, the following simple decree will bring him everything he may desire. I am the great opulence of God made visible in my use right now and continuously. Many students perceive, however, a limiting element. This arises because they initiate their endeavor by declaring the truth through the affirmation. Yet, upon conscientious self-examination a few hours later, they detect lingering traces of doubt or fear within themselves. These two emotions naturally tend to neutralize the constructive power that would otherwise bring the petition to swift fruition. Once the student comprehends that every noble desire is God in action, directing his energy toward its fulfillment, and that this energy is self-sustaining, he will grasp the limitless love, power, and intelligence he possesses, through which he can accomplish all things. This simple realization will utterly expunge the word failure from his world and, ultimately, from his consciousness, for he will perceive that he is aligning with an intelligence and power that cannot fail. Thus, students and individuals alike shall attain mastery, which is the divine intent. In all his love and wisdom, our benevolent Father has never willed that his children suffer any deprivation. It is because they fixate upon external appearances, as mutable as shifting desert sands, that they, either consciously or unconsciously, become estranged from the great intelligence and opulence. Such vast opulence is the heritage to which everyone may have access, provided they return to the I Am, God's ever-present active principle within us, and acknowledge it as the sole source of active life, intelligence, and abundance. For ages, certain rules of conduct have existed which students must observe if they are to attain specific objectives. These involve the governance of the life force through sexual energy. For one who has squandered this energy without heed to its governance, merely declaring, "I am relinquishing this," without a true comprehension of the correct state of consciousness, would result in the mere suppression of an energy flow that was previously directed elsewhere. For the student who desires self-governance, here is the most effective affirmation, provided it is utilized with a profound understanding of its import. It is the mighty affirmation of Jesus, "I am the resurrection and the life." This affirmation not only purifies thought, but is also the most powerful elevating and adjusting force that can be employed to overcome the greatest barrier to spiritual attainment. Whosoever begins to feel the prompting to correct this condition, and employs this affirmation with steadfast consistency, will elevate this wondrous current of energy to the highest center of his brain, as was originally ordained. The individual will consequently experience his mind flooded with sublime ideas, abundant sustaining power, and the capability, manifest in both expression and application, to bless all of humanity. I exhort students to practice and observe the results within their own minds and bodies. Contemplate deeply the words of Jesus, "I am the resurrection and the life." Repeat this thrice, either silently or aloud, and observe the elevation of consciousness within you. Some may require numerous repetitions to perceive the wondrous elevation that others experience upon the first instance. This is but a minor illustration of what may be accomplished through the continuous application of this affirmation. There is but a single path to liberation from negative conditions. Once you have identified the precise error to be overcome, withdraw your external attention from it entirely and direct that focus steadfastly upon the aforementioned affirmation. The employment of this decree can assist you in transcending any condition of external experience, or in redirecting the flow of misapplied energy. One student, feeling the impulse to redirect this sublime energy, and solely by utilizing this power, succeeded in achieving the ascension of his physical body. Within a year, a marvelous transformation transpired in his entire external appearance. It is astonishing how few human beings truly feel the profound impact of Jesus' teachings contained within his magnificent words of wisdom. No affirmations in human history have surpassed those which he imparted. When employed consciously, Each of these decrees carries the attendant radiation that he himself attained. In utilizing his affirmations, therefore, you gain access not only to the power of the I Am, but also to his personal assistance. The true significance of the Master Jesus's affirmations must ever be profoundly contemplated. When you arrive at the realization that your own I Am thought, feeling, and expression set in motion the limitless power of God, you shall receive that which you desire. It should be readily comprehensible to the student that external appearances are merely the distorted creations of humanity, which erroneously believes in some separate source of power in the outer world. A moment's reflection, conversely, must lead to the realization that there exists but one love, one intelligence, and one power, which is God. Human shortcomings or external discrepancies are entirely disconnected from the ever-present perfection of God, for every imperfection is the progeny of human, outer conceptions. If humanity would but turn to their higher inner selves, knowing that this presence is God, who is all perfection, and that external appearances are merely human fabrications born of the misuse of divine power, and if they would earnestly meditate upon and accept God's perfection, they would swiftly witness that very perfection manifested in both their experiences and their lives. There is no other means of bringing this perfection into your body, mind, and experience. Only through the acceptance of the great presence of God within you can this be achieved. Such full acknowledgement will cause the outer power to project this divine perfection into your visible experience. Convey to the students that I, as a messenger of truth, am imparting affirmations of truth which will yield positive results if they are employed without hesitation. Metaphysicians are well aware that truth does not operate effectively if affirmations are made today only to be forgotten next week. The desire for the truth and the light is the very presence of God within that desire, projecting itself into action. To attain enlightenment, employ the following decree. I am the complete comprehension and illumination of this matter which I desire to know and understand. The day you open your eyes and behold these wondrous ascended beings, the bliss experienced shall endure throughout all eternity. Unless you accept the absolute truth that you possess the inherent capacity to achieve this, you shall never succeed. At the precise moment you affirm, I am the resurrection and the life, the entirety of your energy begins to flow toward the center of your brain, which is the source of the individualized being. I can never sufficiently emphasize the profound power of this affirmation. There exists no limitation to what you can accomplish through its application. It was the very decree employed by Jesus during his most profound trials. You must realize that whenever you employ a constructive statement, it is God who impels you. It is most foolish to ask, have you been able to prove this through your own experience? Since each individual must test it for themselves. Otherwise, it shall remain devoid of meaning to them until they obtain their own direct realization. Sentiments carry with them a certain coexistent vision. You frequently perceive it with such clarity that you truly behold it from the innermost depth. As you advance toward the ascended state, thought, feeling, vision, and color tend to manifest simultaneously. Harmonious sound is inherently serene. This explains why the most sublime music exerts a soothing influence, whereas discordant music produces the precise opposite effect. Chapter 3. Electronic Belt. From within the radiance of the great electronic belt. From the heart of the Golden City, the twin rays emerge this day, bearing speech, light, and sound. The hour has swiftly arrived when we must achieve a heightened awareness of the great electronic belts encompassing all creation, from the Godhead to the individual. The electronic belt surrounding the Golden City is far more impenetrable than a wall of solid steel many feet in width. Thus, in a lesser degree, the individual possessing sufficient understanding of the active principle of their divine being may envelop themselves in an electronic belt or circle, which they may qualify in any manner they choose. Yet woe unto the individual who qualifies it destructively. Should anyone dare to do so, they would find that this belt of electronic force would constrict upon their outer form and consume it. But those who construct and qualify with wisdom, with the mighty power of God, and with constructive energy shall move in a world untouched by human ignorance. The cosmic epoch has arrived wherein those who have attained a certain degree of comprehension must generate, apply, and utilize this wondrous electronic circle. Every creation, which is an act of self-conscious volition, possesses this circle of electronic force by nature. But, to a certain degree, such force remains ungoverned and, consequently, dissipated. When you consciously create this mighty ring of pure electronic force, you seal all apertures in your limitless essence, preserving it in reserve for direct, conscious application. After several months of this conscious and creative activity within this electronic ring, one must exercise great care in directing this force. It must be directed solely by divine love. In the primordial stage of man's individualization, he was naturally enveloped by this magic circle. But as his consciousness descended, there occurred increasingly numerous ruptures in this great circle of force, causing leakage until it ultimately vanished. The circle was not a product of man's conscious creation. It was a natural, enfolding circle existing by virtue of his pure state of consciousness. Now, students of the light must initiate their work consciously, and, without hesitation, generate this electronic circle about themselves, visualizing it as perfect and devoid of any ruptures. In that manner, it will be possible to consciously penetrate deeper into the electronic belt of the Godhead, thereby receiving limitless wisdom, love, and light, while likewise learning the application of those simple laws by which all creative power is made manifest. Although the student is counseled to ever look to his own God-self, the creator of his individualization, and never lose sight of it, not a single attainment has been achieved without the assistance of more advanced beings. Since there is but one God, one presence, and its almighty activity, he who is more advanced simply represents a greater measure of the divine being in action. By recognizing this, you will also comprehend why you can feel I am here and I am there, for there is but one God-self everywhere. Once the student ultimately comprehends that the ascended host of masters are none other than the more advanced consciousness of himself, he will realize what immense possibilities lie within his reach, whether he addresses God himself, one of the ascended masters of light, or his own I am. In reality, there is no distinction because they are all one. Until this state of consciousness is attained, a distinction remains, for the individual will most assuredly perceive a division of the oneself, something which is possible only through the ignorance of the external activity of the mind. When the student contemplates the outer expression, he must remember at all times that it is the outer activity of the one intelligence, thereby preventing himself from dividing, within his own consciousness, from this one mighty God power centered in him. I must remind you once more that this great, limitless power cannot be introduced into your external application without your invitation. There is but one form of invitation that can induce its flow, and that is your feeling of profound love and devotion. Once an individual has established the electronic circle about himself, no power can penetrate it save divine love. The radiant, blazing circle of the Godhead can be penetrated solely by your consciousness of divine love, through which the deity transmits back to you its great outpouring by means of messengers so transcendent that they surpass your current conception of reality, rendering it impossible to express in words the majesty of love, wisdom, and power of these great beings. Let me remind you once more that the student who dares to act and remain silent will be elevated to the transcendent radiance of this inmost sphere. And it shall be through his vision and experience that he will be enabled to comprehend that which I am now imparting. The soul which is strong enough to wear its armor of divine love and press forward will find no obstruction in its path, for there is nothing between its present consciousness and this mighty, transcendent inner sphere to impede the approach of divine love. Once you have gazed and touched within this inner circle, you will perceive how imperfect the present expression of divine love truly is. When you become conscious of these great spheres to which you have access, you find yourself fearlessly reaching deeper and deeper into the inner radiation of that great intelligent hub, from whence creation and every world have emerged. There are among you strong, courageous souls who will comprehend this and will be capable of utilizing it for their own blessing, as well as that of others. There are others who will understand that the presence beating in each heart is God, that the essence emerging to vitalize the outer form is God in action, and that the activity which causes the blood to course through our bodies is God. Therefore, dear student, can you not perceive what a monumental error it is to sink into the ignorance of the outer self and experience pain, distress, or disturbance, all created by the ignorance and activity of that outer being, when a moment of contemplation will reveal to you that there can be but one presence, one intelligence, and one power, which is God acting within your body and mind? Can you perceive now how simple, yet potent, this consciousness is within you, which releases the full recognition of God's mighty and pure activity into your body and mind, thereby permitting the wondrous, transcendent essence to fill every cell until it overflows? I trust you cannot fail to perceive the simplicity of your own inner self active within you. Turn to it constantly, love it, praise it, and demand its presence within every cell of your physical form, in every necessity of your external activity, in the home, in your business, and so forth. When your desire is projected, enveloped in God's presence, power, and intelligence, it cannot fail. It must inevitably bring that which you desire or require unto you, for desire is but a lesser activity of decreeing, and a decree is the acknowledgement of an accomplished desire. You must never harbor fear in utilizing this magnificent power. You are well aware that if you direct it erroneously, it will engender disharmony. Conversely, if you employ it constructively, it will bestow such profound blessings upon you that you will yearn only to praise and offer thanksgiving. This power awaits your conscious direction. He who once queried in the scripture, "Who of you can add 1 cubit to your height by your thought?" has restricted individual action and progress, since thought and feeling constitute the creative power of God in action. The uncontrolled employment of thought and feeling has engendered all manner of discord, illness, and distress. Few individuals credit this, however, and they continue to generate chaos through their ungoverned thoughts and desires when they might, with the same ease as they draw breath, employ constructive thoughts and, motivated by love, erect a perfect paradise for themselves within the span of 2 years. Even science has demonstrated that both the external form and the internal body undergo complete renewal within a few months. Therefore, it is entirely feasible to attain the perfection of your entire body, and to cause every organ to resume its normal and flawless activity in a brief span of time by applying the true laws of your being. It would thus be impossible for disharmony to penetrate your thoughts or your physical form. This is God's open door set before you, which no man can shut save yourself, and with which no other may obstruct or interfere. Exercise your God-given dominion and power, and be free. This perfect freedom cannot be sustained without conscious, applied knowledge. I shall impart to you a secret which, if comprehended by the angry and discordant individual, would deter him from such destructive activity, if only for selfish reasons. The angry, condemning individual who projects destructive thoughts and words inevitably receives back the negative quality infused into his feelings, words, and thoughts. Conversely, the other individual, if aligned with his divine power, receives the energy he requires, qualifying it. Thus, the creator of discord will dismantle himself, his own world, and his affairs through his rage and condemnation. Here is a vital point that students must grasp. When one consciously endeavors to reach the inner electronic circle of God, one causes his outer expression and activity to become a permanent channel for the flowing of the pure essence emanating from the divinity. Even should he remain silent, this constitutes one of the greatest services, known to but a few who are conscious of what this signifies for mankind. He who strives to reach within the electronic inner circle becomes a continuous outpouring, and his very radiation serves as a blessing to the entirety of the human race. Thus, century after century, this energy has been poured forth through the unselfish messengers of God for the blessing of those who do not comprehend the uplifting presence of that surging energy. When two or more beings who can serve as channels for this magnificent presence assemble, they are akin to the first fissure in a dam. As the consciousness is maintained with firmness, and as the fissure widens, the flow of water increases, the obstruction vanishes, and the force fully surges forth to be utilized. Unlike water, which overflows without direction, divine power proceeds directly toward the most receptive channel of consciousness, where it accumulates, awaiting the opportunity to manifest itself. Thus, in addition to disseminating the truth, the student of the light becomes akin to an artesian well from whose depths this mighty essence of God emerges. Students must remember at all times that, regardless of the errors they have committed, God never criticizes nor condemns them. On the contrary, at every stumble, his sweet and loving voice whispers, "Arise, my child, and try again, and keep on trying, until at last you have attained the true victory and freedom of your God-given dominion." Whenever an error is committed, one must first invoke the law of forgiveness and supplicate for strength and wisdom so as not to repeat that mistake. God, who is all love, possesses infinite patience, and regardless of the number of mistakes made, one may always say, "Arise and go unto the Father." Such is the love and freedom in which the children of God are privileged to act. There exists but one invincible, evolved process, which is the conscious generation of divine love. Love being the pivot of all existence, the more consciously it is employed, the more easily and swiftly the mighty power of God will be released, a power which, like a pent-up force, ever awaits an opening to project itself through our consciousness. For the first time in centuries, the searchlights or rays from the Golden City, situated in the etheric plain over the Sahara Desert, are in active operation over America and the entire Earth. Certain individuals may perceive these rays without comprehending their significance. Mankind should no longer believe that they may persist in generating destructive forces and yet continue to live. Those who are capable of disseminating knowledge concerning the electronic circle should not be deprived of its benefits. Let it be proclaimed, alongside the warning. Employ this affirmation. I am the fulfilled activity and sustaining power of every constructive thing I desire. Utilize it as a general statement, for the sustaining power is present within all that exists. I am here and I am there, decreeing in everything you wish to achieve, is a magnificent method of utilizing the one activity and rising above the consciousness of separation. Chapter 4. Creating Fire. The creating fire of I Am is God's flame. Its master presence is anchored firmly within the hearts of all His children, though it remains but a spark in some. Yet, if properly nurtured, that spark may expand into a magnificent creating fire and a consuming flame. This mighty presence, in its myriad expressions, is the omnipresent activity which anyone may utilize without limitation, simply by setting aside outer appearances, which have bound them for countless ages. Today, the scepter of power and authority stands before every advancing student. Initially, he may grasp it mentally, taking up that scepter of authority and wielding it. Yet he will soon realize that it can be wielded almost tangibly. It is no empty promise that those who seek the light shall eventually attain such dominion. When we traverse the forest, we know that we can retrace our steps along the same path, yet the choice remains ours. Likewise, after centuries of seeking power and authority in the external world, we realize that what is present today is gone tomorrow, as though built upon shifting sand. Through the joyful acceptance of your divine dominion, you can stand firmly upon the secure rock of truth, God Himself, which can never be disturbed by any external upheaval, once you have realized this through your own experience. Students of truth often wonder why they hesitate in their determination to remain firmly anchored to the God presence, since that is precisely the dominion they seek. They fail to analyze their own conduct to discover what within their behavior engenders such disturbance and doubt. Yet those who exercise the authority that is theirs and look deeply into their own causative factors will easily be able to separate the tares from the golden grain, and will soon find themselves free from the disturbance that causes them to doubt themselves and even the very presence of God beating within their hearts. When students possess the necessary sincerity toward themselves and God, the I Am presence, to sever connection with all that engenders such inner discord, they shall perceive the majestic light and radiation of the great divine self. They will discover that, with minimal exertion, they can direct this great I Am presence into love and intellect, and into self-sustained power, strength, and assurance, which shall anchor them securely to the rock of truth, one of the magnificent jewels within the kingdom of God. This dazzling light will envelop them upon the slightest invitation. O student of the modern age, remain anchored to this mighty presence that pulsates within your heart, whose life courses through your veins, and whose energy flows through your intellect. Endowed with free will, you may qualify and bless this energy to facilitate your self-improvement, or conversely, permit it to manifest imperfection. Bear constantly in mind that you have engendered disharmony and disorder solely because you have neglected to turn toward this mighty presence. You must allow yourself the necessary time to attain complete recognition of this sublime power, dedicating to it the entirety of your life's activities. Do not yield to impatience should circumstances fail to ameliorate as rapidly as you desire. Their transformation proceeds in accordance with the celerity of your own acceptance and the intensity of your sentiments. This magnificent energy coursing through your mind and physical vessel is the pure electronic energy of God, the great I Am Presence. If your thoughts are joyously anchored in your divine being as the source of your life and existence, that pure electronic energy will operate continuously, untainted by human, discordant qualifications. Should you, however, either consciously or unconsciously, permit your thoughts to be influenced by the discord that frequently environs them, it is you who alters the hue and quality of this radiant, pristine energy. It must inevitably act, and it is you who determines the manner of its operation toward you. Never entertain the illusion that you can evade this fundamental truth. It is a law that no mortal can alter. Students must comprehend and maintain this perspective if they wish to sustain their progress. I assure you, beloved students, that even should you experience doubt, fear, or resistance to self-correction, the process thereof remains the open portal to your profound enlightenment and liberation from all external human limitations. Many students succumb to discouragement, criticizing and condemning both themselves and God when, upon attaining certain degrees of understanding and through their purifying endeavors, they are confronted with the numerous errors they have committed that now require correction. This represents another grievous error. Every revelation of an error requiring correction should be received with joy, for it offers an opportunity for advancement through the rectification of mistakes previously unrecognized. Recognizing that God is the very power of thought, they understand that they carry within themselves the capacity for self-correction and should immediately commence that work. The divine life pulsating within their breasts is sufficient proof that they possess God's power and intelligence to dissolve and transmute every mistake and discordant creation built around them, whether consciously or unconsciously. They may declare, I am the mighty consuming flame that now and forever consumes all past and present mistakes, their cause and effect, and all undesirable creation for which my outer self is responsible. Strange though it may appear, certain students seem to find it difficult to maintain their recognition of the limitless power evoked when they pronounce I am, even when the intellect, which is merely external activity, acknowledges this truth. Students must intensify this acknowledgement, feeling its truth deeply, and thereby they shall discover heightened power and celerity in its application. I declare to you, dear student, that the hour has arrived for you to exercise this power with supreme authority, thereby liberating yourself from the restrictive chains that have so long held you captive. Begin the ordering of your house with unwavering resolve. Were you anticipating a distinguished guest, you would undoubtedly spend days joyfully laboring, polishing, and preparing all things for his reception. How much more critical is the preparation for this great principle of the consuming fire dwelling within you and controlling the element of fire. In contemplating Oromasis, Prince of the element of fire, one contemplates the flame of the creative fire, invoking his assistance in the elevation of this creative power, which produces results beyond imagination. When you speak in the name, power, and authority of the mighty I Am, you release limitless energy to fulfill your desires. Why, then, should you permit doubt and fear to assail you, when the I Am is the open portal to God's opulence, awaiting dissemination in the form of health, blessings, and prosperity? Dare to embody, feel, and employ this mighty authority, God within each and every one of us. Can you not perceive, dear student, that you can manifest perfection in a matter of minutes or hours, Simply by resolving to utter this affirmation with steadfast determination, I am the mighty electronic energy flowing through, filling, and renewing each cell of my mind and body right now. Do you not perceive that within minutes or hours you can dissipate any disturbance within your mind or body, permitting that pure, mighty energy to operate uninfluenced by your human thoughts? If you are capable of renewing a nerve, an organ, or restoring any other, do you want access to this and all the complete audiobooks on the channel, plus the ebook version? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code in the left corner of the screen to access our library, where you can listen to your favorite esoteric books without ad interruptions, lock your screen, or use other apps while the narration plays, and even download the ebook version to follow along as you listen. Listen on your computer via web browser, or download the app from the Play Store. After subscribing, you will receive an email with your login details, password, and step-by-step instructions on how to access the books through the Hotmart app.